Welcome to Fascinating History, where today we craft an even more expansive and detailed video, aiming for a truly comprehensive exploration of Columbus's atrocities and their enduring consequences. The Scars of Conquest, a deep dive into the brutality of Columbus's colonial enterprise. Christopher Columbus's voyages, often romanticized as a tale of heroic exploration, were, in reality, the vanguard of a brutal colonial enterprise that inflicted immeasurable suffering upon the Indigenous Taíno people. Beyond the sanitized narratives of discovery, a stark reality emerges: a systematic campaign of enslavement, violence, and cultural annihilation. To truly understand the impact of Columbus's actions, we must delve into the specific atrocities committed and their far-reaching consequences. The foundations of exploitation, enslavement, tribute, and resource depletion as cornerstones of colonialism. Columbus's primary objective was the accumulation of wealth for the Spanish crown, leading to the establishment of exploitative systems that devastated the Taíno population. The gold tribute system, a mechanism of oppression and terror. This system mandated that every Taíno over the age of 14 deliver a specified amount of gold quarterly. The quotas were deliberately unrealistic, designed to create a perpetual cycle of punishment and fear. The penalty for non-compliance, the severing of hands, was a calculated act of terror, intended to instill absolute submission and control. This brutal practice not only inflicted physical pain, but also served as a public spectacle to intimidate the entire population. The system caused widespread social disruption as people fled their villages to avoid the impossible demands, leading to famine, the collapse of agricultural practices, and the disintegration of social structures. The system was designed to create a state of constant and debilitating fear. The inception of the transatlantic slave trade, a legacy of human trafficking. Columbus initiated the transportation of captured Taíno people to Spain, marking the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. These captives endured horrific conditions during the voyage, with high mortality rates due to disease, starvation, and mistreatment. His letters reveal a disturbing perspective, viewing the Taíno as commodities to be traded and exploited. He even suggested sending more to Spain, revealing a callous disregard for their humanity and a clear intent to profit from their suffering. This action established a precedent for the following centuries of slave trade, a legacy that continues to impact descendant communities. Forced labor and environmental devastation, extracting wealth at the expense of human life and the natural world. Beyond gold mining, the Taíno were forced into grueling agricultural labor, cultivating crops for the colonizers. They were also compelled to extract other resources, such as timber and other materials, disrupting their traditional way of life and leading to environmental degradation. This forced labor, combined with the introduction of European diseases and the disruption of their agricultural practices, led to widespread famine and weakened the indigenous population, making them more susceptible to further exploitation and disease. The colonists had no regard for the natural resources of the islands, leading to deforestation and other environmental issues. The instruments of terror, violence, and brutality as tools of domination. Columbus and his men relied on violence and terror to subjugate the Taíno people, establishing a reign of fear and oppression. Systematic torture and mutilation, dehumanizing the indigenous population. Historical accounts detail numerous instances of torture inflicted upon the Taíno, intended to extract information or punish resistance. These acts of cruelty, including mutilation, burning, and other forms of torture, were not isolated incidents, but a systemic pattern of behavior designed to instill fear and maintain control. These actions were designed to dehumanize the native people, making it easier for the colonizers to justify their brutality and to break their spirits. The use of war dogs, a weapon of fear and death. The Spanish colonizers brought with them fierce dogs trained to attack and kill indigenous people. These dogs were used as weapons of terror, further contributing to the climate of fear and violence. The dogs were used to hunt down natives who attempted to flee into the forests and were used to terrorize villages. Sexual violence and the exploitation of women, a tool of domination and demoralization. Unfortunately, in many ways, the sexual exploitation of Taíno women was rampant, with colonizers engaging in rape and forced servitude. Indigenous women were treated as objects of conquest, their bodies violated as a symbol of domination. This was a very effective way to demoralize the native population, break down the social structure, and instill terror. Punitive expeditions and massacres, eradicating resistance through violence. When Taíno resistance arose, Columbus and his men launched punitive expeditions, systematically massacring villages and capturing those who survived. These expeditions were designed to instill terror and deter future resistance, resulting in the deaths of countless indigenous people. These massacres were used as examples to other native groups in order to ensure compliance and to spread fear. The devastating aftermath: disease, genocide, and cultural annihilation. The arrival of Europeans brought with it a wave of devastating consequences for the Taíno people, leading to their near-total annihilation. The scourge of European diseases, a silent killer. Diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which the Taíno had no immunity, spread rapidly, causing widespread death. These epidemics, combined with the harsh conditions imposed by the colonizers, led to a catastrophic decline in the indigenous population. The close living conditions and forced labor accelerated the spread of disease and weakened the natives' ability to fight off illness. The deliberate destruction of indigenous cultures, eradicating identity and tradition. Columbus and his men sought to eradicate indigenous cultural practices and beliefs, imposing their own religion and customs. This cultural destruction further contributed to the disintegration of Taíno society, undermining their social structures and traditions. Native religious items were destroyed, and religious leaders were targeted in order to break down the native social structure. Genocidal actions and their long-term impact, a legacy of loss and trauma. The combined effects of violence, enslavement, and disease resulted in the near-total annihilation of the Taíno population. Many historians now recognize these actions as a clear case of genocide, the deliberate destruction of a people. The damage caused by Columbus and his men had long-lasting repercussions, which are felt to this day in the form of social and economical problems. Reclaiming the narrative, a call for historical accuracy and justice. It is crucial to challenge the traditional sanitized portrayal of Columbus and acknowledge the devastating consequences of his actions. The importance of indigenous perspectives, amplifying marginalized voices. Incorporating indigenous voices and perspectives is essential for a complete and accurate understanding of history. Indigenous communities have preserved oral histories and traditions that provide a powerful counter-narrative to the dominant historical accounts. Historical accuracy and accountability, confronting the past to shape the future. We have a responsibility to confront the dark aspects of history and acknowledge the suffering of Indigenous peoples. By doing so, we can work towards a more just and equitable future. Ongoing repercussions and the need for reconciliation. Healing the wounds of colonialism. The effects of colonization and the actions of Columbus are still felt today. There is a need for reconciliation and for the honoring of the native cultures that were nearly destroyed. By acknowledging the full extent of Columbus's atrocities, we can begin to address the enduring legacy of colonialism and work towards a more just and equitable future. Tell us what you think in the comments down below, and as always, see you in the next video.